Hi there, my name is Steve Gearhart and this is the Unagi Observer. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching this week's video. As you know, we talk about a whole bunch of different fandoms. Anime, comics, gaming, science fiction, and speaking of science fiction, that's what we're going to talk about this week. Particularly a cyberpunk classic movie. It's a cult classic from 1984. One of my personal favorites. And it's one that you should definitely watch. And it has Henry Dean Stanton in it, that great actor. It also has a very young, starting off brand new Emilio Estevez. And it is just a gloriously good movie. Well, in terms of like B-roll sci-fi cyberpunk movies, it's glorious in that fashion. But it's called Repo Man. And you know what? Let's just go ahead and start talking about it. Okay, let's start with the plot. Alright, so basically there's this scientist who's clearly deranged. He's wearing sunglasses but only has one lens in it. And he's driving this 1964 Malibu, wandering, meandering through the desert. And you come to find out as you're watching the beginning credits of the movie of an electronic 1984 computer technology, by the way, electronic screen of this car being tracked from Area 51 to Los Alamos, in which I believe is supposed to be in somewhere in California. So you get the idea that there's something going on here, and it starts off with a cop investigating the contents of a trunk, which has horrifying consequences. You come to learn, not a spoiler, you learn this very quickly. Basically, this guy has taken the aliens from Area 51, and he's trying to get the word out to the press that this is, what's going on. The government's covering it up, and he's going to this nut job who helps run a UFO museum in Los Alamos. So as he's driving this 1964 Malibu, literally like going from one side of the road to the other, singing "Clementine, my sweet Clementine." Yes, he's singing that. As he's doing that, several different entities are looking for him. You have the CIA looking for him. You have this weird religious cult looking for him. You have this, of course, the military looking for him, and this weird shadowy organization that's run by a woman who doesn't really have a name, but she has a metal hand. So there you go. So to find this car, nobody can seem to find it. Nobody can track this guy, even though he's just driving all over the place. They decide to go to collection agencies, Repo Men, and say, yeah, we would like to have this car repossessed, and under the shell company name, and we'd like you to get this car. And there's how much is it? $20,000. Yeah, $20,000 if you can get us this car. Don't look into the trunk though, because bad things will happen. Anyway, so as the guy wanders, as this is happening, we meet Otto. Otto is Emilio Estevez. Otto is a punk, the prototypical 1980s hardcore punk. So you have a lot of punk music. He's just very nihilistic. He's very one-dimensional. Otto is supposed to be one-dimensional. You're not really supposed to get any deep, meaningful thing from Estevez's character here. He's just a nihilist. He's a punk. He's living in the moment. And Henry D. Stanton plays a Repo Man. And he dupes Otto into helping him repossess a car. And as doing so, Otto becomes a Repo Man. As the story goes on, they get the call, hey, there's this 1964 Malibu. Someone's willing to pay $20,000 for it. Go find it. So the rest of the movie goes on from there. Now, so that's basically the plot. This is 1984. You're not going to get great special effects. As a matter of fact, there are very limited special effects in this movie. There is no computer, there's no CGI. There's none of that. Like I said, the title sequence has a sort of computer screen going from one screen to another as Iggy Pop's Repo Man theme song is playing, which is an awesome song. And that's about as much computer graphics as you're going to get. So it's basically a joyride. And if you want to get an idea of what it meant to be a punk in the 1980s, yeah, I used to have black spiked hair and combat boots, the whole 9 yards. Seriously, the pictures are hilarious. If you want to get an idea of what it meant to be a punk back then, this is a pretty good way to see it. The reason why this is kind of cyberpunk is because it has the tropes of anti-authoritarianism, anti-government, science is not always good, and there is a little element of, the cyberpunk world of, there's something else beyond us that we're trying to access. And it's just a wonderful little movie. It keeps going and going and going. There's a lot of great clippy one-liners. There are amazing people in this cast of characters. So let me actually talk a little bit about that. So for a movie that is a cult classic, that was a B-roll basically movie, that is never really got much in the way of fame. It has a lot of people in it. You have Jennifer Balgobin, a beautiful model. You have, like I said, Harry Dean Stanton in it. You have Emilio Estevez. You have Eddie Velez. You have Tom Finnegan. You have Tracy Walter. Tracy Walter's it's that guy. He's in everything. He's a classic character actor. You have Olivia Barish. She was one of the younger Wilder sisters in Little House on the Prairie. You have so many of these people. You even have Jimmy Buffett. Yes, the Jimmy Buffett is in this movie. It's just an amazing cast of characters here, and I'm just kind of reading down the list here. It also has various band cameos, like the Circle Jerks from the 1980s, and it's a cornucopia of it's that guy in this movie. So you got a lot of heavy hitters in here, and there's another person in here who I want to bring up, and it's the producer of the movie. He's not actually in the movie himself, but he produced the movie. He was the executive producer, and his name is Michael Nesmith. Now, that name might sound familiar to you music files out there. If you're my age or older, that name might ring a bell, and there's a reason for that, because it's this guy. Yes, from one of the original boy bands, the Monkees. It's that guy. He produced a cyberpunk film because he could. There you go. So, so if nothing else to watch this movie for is to watch, just go, hey, I know that person. Hey, I know that person. Hey, I know that person. Because you're going to see everybody in this movie. It's just amazing. Now, let's take a moment and talk about the soundtrack. As we all know, a soundtrack can make or break a movie. It can be just as important as a movie. It can be synonymous with a movie. Like, for example, if you were to take the music that Queen did for the original Highlander movie, you would know that music is, like you hear a song, you immediately think Highlander. When you hear one particular song on the soundtrack for Repo Man, you will think of Repo Man, and that is the Repo Man theme by Iggy Pop. But the album itself exists outside of the movie, meaning that it's its own kind of collection of punk music. And if you style yourself as a punk, this is like the holy grail of stuff. I mean, this is like American punk, like just a wonderful little snapshot of 80s American hardcore punk. So let me just read off the bands that are a part of this album. Iggy Pop, of course, with Repo Man. TV Party by Black Flag, before Henry Rollins was a member of Black Flag. Institutionalized, that famous song by Suicidal Tendencies. The Circle Jerks, which I've talked about. The Plugs, Burning Sensation, Fear. You have Juicy Bananas, a great funky band from the 70s. I mean, that's just to give you an idea of what the music is like in this movie. You know, if you had to choose between buying the DVD or the movie and having to buy a soundtrack, if you're forced to choose between one or the other, that would be a really hard decision to make, honestly, because they're both so good and independent of each other. The soundtrack is worth having. And again, if you style yourself as a punk, this is kind of one of those things where you kind of have to know about it. You kind of have to say, you have to be able to talk to the Repo Man soundtrack album, which means that you need to own it. So if you don't own it, are you really a punk? Are you? Are you really? No. But it's a very good thing to have in your collection in knowing punk music. So, yeah, I mean, this soundtrack, like I said, even if you don't watch the movie, the soundtrack by itself is amazing. Okay, so that was my review for Repo Man from 1984, the cyberpunk cult classic. Now, obviously, the question is, should you watch it? Of course you should. Go out there right now. Find it. Buy it. Look for streaming services. Anywhere. Go for it. Do it. I was fortunate enough last week 2 weeks now? 2 weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to able to see it at a historic theater on the big screen for the first time in my life, which is really awesome because the first time that I had seen it was on a VHS tape. No, actually it was cable in 1986, 2 years after the movie came out, which means it's been forever since I've never seen it on the big screen. So it was a joy for me to do that. So yes, please, please, please watch this movie. You don't have to go out on the big screen to watch it, but please find a way to watch it because it really is good. And as I said before, buy the soundtrack. If you like punk, you're going to love, love, love this soundtrack. It is a cult classic. It's not going to be, Oscar whatever. It is a B-roll movie. Just keep that in mind, but it is something worth watching. Very much worth watching. It does not take itself too seriously. There's a lot of quotable lines in this movie. So yes, go watch it. See it now. Okay, so anyway, moving on. I believe I owe you guys some digital sushi, so that's going to be coming up here pretty soon. The other thing is that with the Delta variant going on right now, I want to make sure that you guys, please vaccinate. If you've only got the first shot, you still need to get the second shot. Do whatever you can to get that second shot. If you haven't vaccinated at all, if you can, please, but please, I know there's some medical reasons why some people can't do it, but if you don't have those medical reasons that prevent you from getting the vaccination, please, 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 please get it. It's so important to your health, to your well-being. Of course, as always, wear the mask because it's going to help. Social distance just because it's going to help. And please do those things because someday I would like to meet you in person. Wouldn't that be awesome so we can talk about this stuff in person? That would be so great. And I can't wait to get back into the convention thing, of which, by the way, I'm going to Gen Con, I believe, in September. But I can't wait to actually get to an anime convention, a sci-fi convention, talk about these things, and just, we can all be together. Wouldn't that be so nice? But you got to get vaccinated first and do the precautions to get yourself to that point. So please do that because I love you guys and I want to hang out with you at some point. Okay. Take it easy. Have a good one. Do what you need to do. Stay safe.